I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Ryan Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. It's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And I'm sure dancing stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad. Now listening to Open Season, your host, Good evening, and welcome to Open Season. I'm your host, Billy Allen, sitting here with Frankie Bradica. We've got a whole lot to talk about this week in sports. The Patriots brought no game plan on either side of the ball to the game last night and get walloped by the Chicago Bears 33-14. Aaron Rodgers lost. Tom Brady lost. Not a good day for old quarterbacks in the NFL. McCaffrey joined a new team, and DeAndre Hopkins was back. Didn't take him too long to get 15 targets. Matt Ryan got benched. We're talking about Joe Burrow, Herbert, Kenneth Walker, and the Seahawks young draft class. George Pickens scored his first touchdown. The Lakers cannot hit a three. Russell Westbrook is 4 of 26 his last two games. But we start out last night on Monday Night Football, the controversy all week. Do they have a quarterback controversy? Do they not? Well, the Patriots didn't release a starter or name a starter until about 6:45 last night, but it was Mac Jones who got the start and got off to a pretty bad one. 3 for 6 through a pretty bad interception. I think he had like 16 yards or something like that. Not the start that Mac was looking for the Patriots. And we got to experience Zappy time for about 12 minutes. Was probably some of the most exciting football that we've been a part of in the last 10, 15, 20 years here. But after that, the Patriots really couldn't put anything together, get outscored, don't get any points in the second half, and it ends up being a long night for the Patriots. Frank, what's your immediate thoughts on last night? Belichick going with two quarterbacks in that approach, the old adage, sometimes when you have two quarterbacks, you have zero. Did you think that was a good game plan last night? And what are your thoughts after that loss 33-14?
Anyone who thinks the game plan was to play both quarterbacks, specifically in that capacity, where one guy gets 6 pass attempts or whatever it was, gets 3 series, that is patently untrue. All right. Second, and I'd like to bring this up early in the discussion because I assume we'll be on this topic longer than either one of us would like. Nobody in New England can say, honestly, that for about 12 minutes of real time, about 7 minutes of game time, that they didn't feel like, oh no, it's happening again. Oh no, we didn't just get somebody out of nowhere and somebody gets injured, the heir apparent, and here this guy comes, zips down the field. It almost seems like they're waiting for all the good plays until Zappy's in there. I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy zips down the field 2 straight times, and nobody in New England, to a larger or lesser extent, can deny that was their thought process.
It was incredible. It did feel like that. I'm in a group text with some friends. They're like, this is what it felt like when Brady first started. And that's how, it felt electric. And that first touchdown, Scott Zolak was screaming. He's always screaming, but they were going nuts. They're just saying like he hadn't heard it louder than that in Foxborough in some time. And to your point, for about 10, 12 minutes there, that was the most exciting football. Excuse me. Go ahead, Frank.
It was the most exciting football since Jimmy G, since you're drinking water and can't dispute this. But Jimmy G against the Dolphins looked unbelievable. Just zip down the field. Everything looks clean. It's precise. The offensive play calling is immaculate. And as I said, it almost seems like they're waiting for all the good plays until Zappy's in there. It just seems like whenever Mac Jones is in the game, the offense is so hard Everything is so hard. Every yard, every point is so hard. And when Zappe's in there, you see guys running wide open. And I don't know if that's a product of coaching or confidence in your quarterback, or I'd have to see practice or be able to watch more games than I do with a full-time job. But it just seems like when Zappe's in there, and then for the wheels to come off the wagon so fast, that was spectacular, unbridled. I mean, that was glorious.
Literally, as it was happening, I'm like, this is why sports is greater than any reality TV out there, any housewives show you could find. No, I mean, it was just incredible. I could not believe that Mac Jones started the game and Bailey Zappi came in that quickly. Like, I was like rubbing my eyes to be like, this is happening. Bill is actually listening to the drunk fans in Foxborough. I mean, after 6, call it whatever you want. They wanted to maybe get both quarterbacks ready. And, Belichick's saving grace was that apparently he told a couple reporters or something last night before the game or whatever that he planned to use both quarterbacks. I think that's what Schefter had said a little bit before the game. But there definitely was no plan to let Mac come out there and have a terrible 6 passes, get booed off the field, and have the Zappi chants coming every possession.
Like it was the Comedy Cellar. Like it was the Apollo. We let a quarterback get booed off the stage.
I mean, going into that game, you knew that Mac Jones, if he was going to play, he needed to be the second guy to come into that game to extinguish any type of controversy, anything like that. Maybe you say that you give him the shot that only lasts a half or something. He comes in the second half, and then he's kind of getting ready for the next week. I mean, to have Mac come in that game first, I feel like Belichick did not set it up well to stop the controversy. And now that there's a lot of people questioning it, I feel like a lot of people are, it's really just kind of, you try to, the hubris to get 2 quarterbacks ready and play this like a high school football game against the Chicago Bears. It's just incredible. And you hear this all the time, but when you have multiple quarterbacks, you really have 0. I don't think that you can prepare both quarterbacks to play a game. I mean, you just can't. And so coming into this, you now just wonder what the direction of the team is, because Bailey Zappi has played really well for 3 games. He's had a terrible half. And, Mac Jones has played pretty much terrible except for 1 half, but he's not getting the good plays. He doesn't have the trust among Patricia. So it's really hard to evaluate this decision and what the future of quarterback is with the Patriots right now.
I think it's fascinating for all the wrong reasons. Right? Like if you have 2 good quarterbacks, if you have Steve Young and Joe Montana, boy, that's exciting. If you have Bledsoe and Brady, I know people crap on Bledsoe, but Bledsoe's the number 1 pick, went to a Super Bowl, was a very good quarterback. So this is none of those circumstances. This isn't Favre, Rodgers. This is 2 mediocre quarterbacks with noodle arms. And it just feels like they call better plays for Zappi. And I don't know. Maybe you can call those plays.
Did the team not respond, though, for Zappi, though? How amazing was that? I mean, they were dead when Mac was in, and they just went off for Zappi. I mean, granted, it lasted for 2 drives and didn't come back at all the rest of the night, but you could definitely feel the team responding to Zappi come in, that initial shot in the arm. It only ended up being a shot in the arm, but it was a shot. I felt the zap, Frank.
Listen. Zappi was electrifying. There's no question about it. But when the wheels fall off the wagon so gloriously, you're not getting credit for that. You came in, you zipped right down the field. The offense looked great. Nobody cares. You then threw 2 picks. You and Mac Jones were collectively horrible and individually even worse. That's what happened. We had 3 picks, 3 turnovers from the quarterbacks. 3 picks.
Do you know that's the first win for the Bears in Foxborough? I mean, there's just a lot of bad stats behind this one if you're a Pats fan. The other thing that stood out to me was that, the Bears quarterback had 76 Fields had 76 rushing yards in the first half. That's the most ever given up by Belichick in a first half. And he had like 9 design runs in the first half. I mean, I just feel like a guy who's passing for 125 yards a game, shouldn't the plan be to make that guy throw? I was shocked at how easily he ran in for that first touchdown. It just seemed like the Pats were not ready to stop him on the ground, which I felt like we all knew was coming. I mean, one thing you know is that Justin Fields can't throw well on you. He hasn't thrown well at all this year. One thing he can do is run, and they were able to do that with ease on the Patriots. That surprised me because I felt like they would have taken away that aspect of the game.
It didn't surprise me because I think the Patriots took this game off. I think they thought they were just going to roll over. This is one of the worst spread differentials, if you care about Vegas, since Belichick's been a head coach of the Patriots. I mean, this was bad. To be the favorites you were and lose so spectacularly is embarrassing. Should embarrass Patriots fans, should embarrass the coaches, the players. This was prime time, standalone game.
And if you're watching out there, you want to go ahead and type in who you think could be the starter next weekend, go for it. I mean, Frankie, as you sit here right now, they definitely have not done any favors for Mac Jones this year, from starting over and putting him on a new offense that he succeeded really well on last year. You know, for as much as I've said Mac probably isn't the guy, he had a great rookie year, and they changed everything up on him. They brought in new coaches. You know, the play calling has not been favorable to him, as you said. You know, it's been like calculus for him out there, whereas, you know, it's been up, down, left, right for Zappe. Who do you think should be the starting quarterback? Who do you think will be the starting quarterback, and who would you want to be the starting quarterback next week?
Mac and Mac. And there's a part of me that wants Zappe because I just think he's got balls Mac doesn't have. But it's got to be Mac. He's a first-round draft pick. He's better. He's better. And how about you just call the game for him like you call it for Zappe? How about that?
Yeah. Well, I feel like if they had started out this entire season like that, you know, maybe Mac Jones doesn't get hurt. Maybe things are a lot different right now if they had just dumbed things down like they did for Mac. And that was one thing that they did last year, was they really controlled Mac, you know, kind of reined him in a little bit. And now that he's got a little bit more familiarity, I think he wants to, you know, kind of grow a little bit. Whereas Zappe is kind of just the guy that, yes, sir, no, sir. And I feel like that's why he's getting the calls. You know, you made it seem like that he is getting better plays called for him. And I agree with that. You know, Mac has not been set up to succeed. But I do think it's for a couple reasons. I think it's Zappe does just say yes to everything. And Zappe has been the better quarterback this year. You know, he's done better with Patricia and Judge. And I feel like, you know, if you're having success with one guy and not with another, I mean, you're obviously going to just in your own selfish interest, I feel like, whether you mean to or not, probably hold out the more favorable stuff for him.
Not haven't been on the offensive side of the ball in a decade. And
I don't want to agree with you on this, but I think I have to with just the Mac Jones starting next week. I think for, you know, if you want this team to go, I want Bailey Zappe, but I feel like, you know, so to answer my own question, I think they'll start Mac. I think that you need to kind of, you know, go back and say, hey, we are trying to keep Mac healthy, you know, backtrack a little bit here and play Mac the rest of the year, show faith behind him. I would want to see Zappe again, you know, and see if he could do this again. But I feel like in order to be most successful, they're probably going to have to go back, commit to Mac Jones, because I feel like at this point you're starting to, you know, you could potentially lose the team right now if guys don't understand why a quarterback is you know, if you're Bill Belichick, right, you could potentially lose the team if they can't understand why one guy Go ahead. What are you shaking your head for?
I'm sorry. I hate to be, you know, argumentative. I know that we like to get along on this show, but quite frankly, Belichick's got the resume. What player on that team, offense or defense, is going to look at him and say, who are you? Like,
well, apparently Mac Jones is. He's the Y guy.
How is that working? They said, oh, you want to complain? We'll save all the good plays for the backup and go kiss dicks. Sorry, that's just what happens sometimes.
And it will fly you first class to Cleveland and give you a front row seat to watch, you know, your backup steal your job.
Sorry. Like, I have no respect for that. Like, I think
you could have gotten out of that game last night by starting Zappe You let Zappe come in, see what he does. If he keeps playing well, you keep him in. You're saving Mac for the next week. I feel like just the order of things that they did really screwed things up for them. If you bring in Zappe to start that game, you can kind of justify a lot of the things that you did. And you're preparing Mac. You only want him to get a half, knock off some of the rust. You know, if Zappe continues to do well, but the order in which they did things, I think that's what's screwing them.
I disagree again. This has become a brilliant segment because I thought we'd agree the whole night. I disagree again. I think starting Mac Jones when I don't think anybody. I mean, I didn't. I don't think the opponent did. I didn't think Mac Jones was going to start. I didn't think he was going to play at all. So, and then the report came in. I think you said at 6:40, 6:45. It was late, right? It was late before the game. So then we all knew Mac Jones was going to start. But prior to that, I don't think anybody did. So, Belichick tried to be the smartest guy in the room, wanted to unleash the element of surprise. Now, it didn't work at all, actually. Failed miserably, right in his face. But I think that was the approach, right? And I just don't think it works the other way. If Zappe comes in and does well, you know what you're not going to do? Bring in Mac Jones. That's just not what's going to happen. You're going to ride that out. If you were going to play both, you had to start with Mac. And I think when they took him out was embarrassing. But you start with Mac.
Okay. See, I just feel like if Zappe does great, you could have stayed with Zappe. Like, you don't have to play both of them, is what I'm saying. You basically
you don't get to be Belichick. Then you don't get to say, but I got both quarterbacks ready. You see, it's all about being the smartest guy in the room. The hubris, the arrogance. Look, you've been the best coach GM combo in this league's history. And you've also been an old curmudgeon who's unyielding and very disrespectful, very incubating of incestuous relationships, cesspool. Our organization is embarrassing. We have Steve Belichick making faces. We've got Joe Judge and Matt Patricia in high-level positions despite failing upwards. This is a clown show. This is a clown show.
I agree with you. I mean, this team has not performed well. I mean, not acted like a team that we've come to know of the Patriots over the past couple of years. I mean, if you looked at another team, you just, put white out over the name of the team and listed the moves that they did, we would be absolutely destroying them, for bringing in guys like Patricia and Judge, for not putting any weapons around their young quarterback, for changing everything around. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Billy, what about $40 million a year at tight end for two guys that aren't very good? Don't you like? What about spending money on Devontae Parker to increase Mac Jones' interception rate? Don't you like? What don't you like, honestly? Like, tell me honestly, what don't you like about Matt Patricia and Joe Judge failing upwards and being pivotal role members, key carry members of your organization? What about all that is not to like?
Oh, yeah. I hear you. Well, so let's move on a little bit to let's talk a little bit about the Green Bay Packers. They lose a close one, 24-23. Aaron Rodgers says that they're making a lot of mistakes. Some of these guys shouldn't be playing. I mean, this is another guy that I like to enjoy watching fail. Aaron Rodgers is having a good year statistically, but he's just around a team that it feels like he doesn't trust. It feels like he just kind of signed this deal and was kind of like, all right, I don't necessarily care if we win. I just really trying to get the most amount of money here. And it feels like, he's not really bought into Lazard as his number one weapon out there. Some of the young guys. But I got to say, would it completely shock you if they were to go into into Buffalo this weekend and win? I mean, they're 3-4, but I still feel like this team isn't completely dead. I mean, they'll probably make the playoffs, right?
The answer to your direct question, would it be shocking if they went into Buffalo and won? No. This is a different type of clown show. Aaron Rodgers is on a list of athletes that isn't short, but is calculated, right? Like Ibrahimovic, right? And then Tom Watson in golf, Floyd Mayweather in boxing. I mean, how many people are this hated ubiquitously? I mean, he's just unlikable. The guy's just a schmuck. He's Kyrie Irving. I mean, this guy is everything. Like when people say shut up and dribble, shut up and play your game and things like that, don't get involved. It's because of people like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the guy's a scumbag through and through. Thinks he's smarter than everybody, looks like he needs a shower, has poor relationships with his family and exes. The guy has no wins. His former teammates throw him under the bus as soon as they leave the organization. The guy's a scumbag. And he's super talented, don't get me wrong. But he's no different than Brett Favre. They've had 30 years of quarterbacking. That is top 3 in the league. They have 2 rings to show for it and a bunch of scandal. Aaron Rodgers is a schmuck. Brett Favre is a schmuck. That organization sucks ass. I hate it. Forget the Packers. I hate them. No owner. We're just going to do things the right way. Not going to pay anybody. They're just schmucks. Like, they're horrible. I hate the Packers. Love the Bucks. Hate the Packers. Packers need to go somewhere. Matt Cook is on that list. Like, think about the list of Alex Rodriguez. Think about the list of athletes that are just like so easy to hate. Like, they make it easy for us, right? Like, that's who this guy is.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers' like own family doesn't even like him. I feel like that's one of the things.
He's such a villain. And to answer again your direct question, the reason I wouldn't be shocked if they went into Buffalo and won, I think when you have the best quarterback on the field, you can win any game. I think they'll have the best quarterback on the field when Aaron Rodgers takes on Josh Allen. I know we're all super buzzing on the Josh Allen hype train.
I was just gonna say that you're gonna be upset a lot of people with those comments. You know,
some people are still realistic and know that Josh Allen. If you traded him right now, the Bills are better and the Packers are worse.
Now, another old quarterback who didn't squeak out a win this weekend was Tom Brady.
Squeak out a win.
Losing 31 to, well, I guess, Rodgers was close to getting a win, I guess. Yeah, Brady was nowhere close. 21-3 loss against Carolina. How did Carolina win that game? No one knows. PJ Walker got the start. They don't have any running backs there. They just lost McCaffrey. They just lost Robbie Anderson. But somehow they come out with the win, probably because Baker wasn't playing it, obviously. But I just feel like a lot of people are really crapping on this year for Brady. Granted, he's not having a great year, but he's still got like 2,000 yards. He's got 8 touchdowns and a pick. They're 3-4. They're still first in that division. They've got some easy games coming up. They have to play Baltimore. They have to play the Rams, who I'm not saying those are easy games, but after that, it gets into like Seattle, Cleveland, New Orleans.
Throw some respect on Geno Smith's name.
I just feel like we all see that he's getting ready to fall off a cliff at some point. Right? I mean, he can't keep it going this entire year. I mean, Seattle, they're young guys. I mean, they had an incredible young draft, but I don't think that's enough for Geno Smith.
We have more to talk about Seattle's draft.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute.
But for now,
but I just feel like this Buccaneers team, are they as good as they were when they won the Super Bowl? Of course not. Is Brady bought in? Of course not. But they're still going to finish halfway deep. I just feel like the slander that they're getting right now isn't probably worth what it is. I mean, this team's going to make the playoffs. They could win a game or two in the playoffs if they get there. Here we go. You've woken up, Whitey.
No, I'm just saying.
But the Bucs will finish with a decent season, is my point.
The Bucs will have the old Patriots treatment when they were bad in that Brady-centric era, 07 to 13, right? Where every time they ran into somebody good, they lost. But they could beat up on all the shit teams. That's what they could do. And that's what the Bucs are going to be. The Bucs are going to win their division, unfortunately, because their division is horrible. And then they're going to get some tomato can team in the first round. They're going to roll over them. And then it is what it is. Then you can win any one game with Tom Brady. And that's what we did. Josh Allen is clearly better than Aaron Rodgers. Clown. I'm not even going to respond to that.
Yeah, Whitey, show your face.
Yeah, you've been on the show 5 times since I've been on it, and you have yet to use your camera. I am not willing to get critiqued by a man who's unwilling to show his face. I love you, Matthew. I love you for staying such a loyal fan. You bring great content, but also quiet. Josh Allen's not better than Aaron Rodgers yet. That hasn't happened. So sorry.
I meant show his face, like jump on here, but yeah, I guess he hasn't actually shown his face either. But
I meant literally.
you could make an argument that Rodgers is still better than Josh Allen. I mean, for one game. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a better thrower than Josh Allen is. Josh Allen's a way better athlete.
My point was, if you put Aaron Rodgers on the Bills, they get better. You feel better. I guarantee you, and you can't do it because it's not tangible, but I guarantee you, if Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen got traded straight up, the Buffalo Bills odds would be better to win the Super Bowl, and the Packers would be worse. That's my point. The people who know what they're doing, who predict games for a living, they know the truth. They're not building smaller casinos in Vegas.
We just did 30 minutes on Allen Mahomes last week. He's not lying.
Wrong for 30 minutes.
We may have done 40.
I'm sorry that you keep running into this problem, but you were wrong for 30 minutes, and now you're wrong for 2 straight comments. We love your participation, but make no bones about it.
But I do want to hear this point out, though. Why would their odds go up with Rodgers?
Because you can make the argument this would be the best team Aaron Rodgers ever been on. And for Josh Allen, it would be about as good a team as he was on his rookie year when he was trashola, when he was just an athlete, just Superman, just ballsy, just Bills Mafia, just hurdling guys, just rushing for 100 yards, but also just losing and just throwing for 57 completion percentage.
Yeah, why do people go so nuts when Josh Allen jumps over a guy? Like I can't understand that. It helps him get
desperation for a quarterback. If
it helps him get like 2 more yards on a play, and people like lose their mind when he jumps over a guy.
Makes no sense.
But anyway, that's a separate thing that we'll tackle another time.
But again, the idea that you wouldn't rather have Aaron Rodgers in a playoff game than Josh Allen. Aaron Rodgers is a colossal failure in the playoffs, and he has still accomplished far more in the playoffs than Josh Allen. I mean, what are we doing here? What is my argument? Why would Vegas have the more favorable odds? Because you've got a guy that's won a Super Bowl on the best team he's ever been on.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's see. What's the where do we want to go next with here? So Matt Ryan's benching. I gotta say that was a little premature. So they said that so he did get an injury, but then they came out and said that even if he hadn't gotten injured or whatever, that they were still going to go to Ehlinger. So I guess it doesn't really matter. I just feel like it's a bit premature. I'm surprised that Matt Ryan hasn't been great over there, but I don't really feel like it's his fault.
It hasn't been his fault. That offensive line straight up hasn't been good. It's been mediocre, and if you're the Colts, you expected to have an elite offensive line. Big problem. Big problem. It's not been his fault. That being said, I think the Colts realize they're going to win more games with Matt Ryan than Sam Ehlinger. And what they have the opportunity to do is replace their quarterback, give Sam enough runtime to really decide if he can do something, if he has a Tim Tebow run, something like that, and then you go acquire an Aaron Rodgers versus losing every game, confirming that Sam's not the guy, that Ehlinger's not it, and then you have a top 2 pick in a quarterback-rich draft. I think this is the right time to pull the trigger. I think they know the same thing you think, the same thing I think, even though we don't see him in practice. Matt Ryan eventually will catch heat on this team. Eventually will just put together a decent run because he's not a bad quarterback and they have some pieces and they'd rather lose. And I don't blame them.
God, I just felt like they were in a great position this year. It was
I did too, but we were all wrong.
Last year with Wentz, you're like, okay, they get rid of Wentz and get somebody better. It was basically like if they have a quarterback, and not like Matt Ryan's amazing, but a few years off an MVP year, and quarterbacks last till 42 these days. He won an MVP in like 2018, didn't he?
I think it was 2016.
basically what I'm trying to say is that he's a guy that he can't move, right? But if you could give him some time, I mean, he's still got a decent arm. He's not bad.
They'd rather lose, and they haven't given him time. So 6 weeks in, they're thinking, forget this.
Yeah, they have not given him time. Yeah, it hasn't looked good.
No. And not his fault, to your point. But also, wouldn't you rather just bite the bullet and be bad? See, they did this. They had Peyton Manning forever. They were bad for 1 year and got Andrew Luck and said goodbye, Peyton. And I think that's their point. They were going to keep doing this. The Carson Wentz, the Matt Ryan, the Aaron Rodgers, or Tom Brady, or the whatever the F they could get accomplished. But it went so poorly this year. They're so dramatically underperforming. We've got such a crap record. Let's just do what we need to do. Let's just bite the bullet and do what we need to do.
So the Dolphins, getting a win with Tua coming back, they're honestly in an incredible position. Their next 4 games, they're playing absolute crap. They're in a great position to go 8-3. I mean, the Eagles are in a great spot to go 10-11-0. I guess are these teams both I mean, obviously the Eagles are shoo-in to make the playoffs. Do you think the Dolphins are shoo-in to make the playoffs at this point with the cake schedule that they have lined up?
I think independent of the schedule, the Dolphins were shoo-in to make the playoffs. I've never bought into the Eagles yet this year, but let me ask you a question, and it's not on our rundown, but it's something that I've been trying to struggle with myself with the Eagles. Do you force them to run or do you force them to pass?
I mean, I would still probably try to force them to pass. I think they're a better team when they're just running on you like that. I feel like Hurts, he's gotten better as a passer, but still you try to make him beat you passing, I think.
I agree. But how many teams have the personnel to line up with Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, and Quez Watkins?
Not many. I mean,
and they have a good and you know how I feel about big men. They've got offensive line who move people against their will. They've got a defensive line who does the same. So I love this team. I'm not sold on them because I'm not sold on Hurts. I want him so badly to be the Josh Freeman, the Terrell Pryor, the guy who finally is like a gadget guy who is just tough enough and smart enough to make the transition as an actual quarterback. I would have liked if Edelman was a quarterback. I'll take anybody. Matt Jones. Call it whoever you want. I want one of these guys to actually succeed as a quarterback. Jalen Hurts is doing that. I like his story. I love his tattoos. I love this guy. I've never been sold on him as a quarterback. But the Eagles are tough to defend because, as we just said, I would also force them to pass. I don't really want to see those weapons in the pass game.
Yeah. Well, you're bringing up reasons to like Hurts. I mean, he could squat 500 pounds too. So I mean,
the guy's a freaking tank.
Let's add that to the pile.
He's built to succeed. I love Hurts.
And you did not like Hurts before this year.
No, I've always loved Hurts, the guy. I always loved his story. I'm still to this day not convinced on him as an NFL quarterback. He's a little small. He's a little inaccurate in tight windows. A little jumpy, quick to decide to scramble. I don't know how well that fares in the postseason, much like Josh Allen. Go back and see my notes. But I've always loved him. I mean, I loved him every place he's been. I loved him in Bama. I mean, I love Hurts. I just think.
So how much more does he have to do till you will?
It's all playoffs. He doesn't have to do anything for the rest of the regular season. It's all playoffs. He's been a productive regular season player. I don't care. It's fine. It's whatever. I want to root for him. I don't see him winning very many playoff games still. I think Lamar is a better playoff quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
Oh, God. Well, that is not something that you want to hear said to you. I mean, Lamar Jackson is an awful playoff quarterback.
Josh Allen was also a bad playoff quarterback. So was John Elway. I mean, some guys. So was Peyton Manning. Some guys figured out.
Yeah,
there's precedent for that. Steve Young, there's precedent for that.
Was Steve Young a bad playoff quarterback?
There's a NFL Films famous clip of him saying, "Somebody get this monkey off my back," because he came from the Succaneers and then the USFL, and then he was sitting behind Montana, the greatest quarterback ever at the time. So yeah, no, there was still controversy and things of that nature. He still came up short. He only won 2 with a team that had won 4.
Yeah, but he didn't really have
No,
like
he
a
won
lot of,
1. He won 1 with a team that had won 4.
yeah. Well, he didn't get a lot of chances.
But is that on him?
No.
I would go back and look at that. I've always thought Aaron Rodgers in his best day is right-handed Steve Young. I love Steve Young.
No, I'm saying that I love Steve Young.
But he came up short. Yeah. But that's independent of what he did in the just like I love Bo Jackson. You know what Bo Jackson did? Nothing. Because he didn't play long enough. I love the man, the myth, the legend as well. He's got no resume.
So talking about guys that you do think will have playoff success over the next couple of years. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit. You don't seem to think that it, and I was having a debate with some of my friends, kind of talking about Herbert, just saying that he's everything that you would want from like a draft standpoint, 6'5", tall, big arm, can move. But for some reason he's missing something. And it seems like, I don't think he's going to win a championship in the next 5 years. And if he doesn't win a championship in the next 5 years, he's probably not that likely to win a championship overall. It seems that you're in agreement on that.
Very few quarterbacks win a Super Bowl in their big money contract. It just doesn't very, very much happen. Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I guess I missed these. Bears converted what seemed like every third down. That is true. The Bears converted 11 third downs. I mean, that
amazing. But again, going back to what I said earlier, that Brady-centric era, that 07 to 13, we couldn't get off the field on third down. We couldn't, until we got Revis here for a couple, we couldn't get off the field on third down. We would run into the Ravens, who'd be bad, that Ray Rice version of the Ravens, and Flacco, and they would beat us anyway because they're just tougher.
Yeah. And the Patriots started out being that tough team, when they first won their Super Bowls, and then they were so soft, and they were so soft in that spot in the middle, that like 10 years.
They were soft most years, including the latter run. That 14 team was tough. I mean, you have, all the Alan Branch, Brandon Browner, Revis. I mean, those guys were Hightower, Collins, Chandler Jones. Those guys hit hard.
Yeah.
But every other version of the Patriots since that first early dynasty has been trash. I mean, let's just be honest. We had Defensive Player of the Year and a team that's still struggling to get out the field on third down when we had Gilmore. So it's not – we've always been bad against bad teams unless we've had Brady.
Getting rid of Richard Seymour ended up being a really bad decision, I felt like.
That's not fair. The freaking Raiders – finish under 500 every single year in an entire decade, except for 1 year. And that year they went 8-8 for, I think, Hugh Jackson. And we got the 17th pick instead of what should have been a surefire top 10 pick, which is what they were every other year in that decade. We ended up with Nate Solder. Nate Solder helped us win Super Bowls. I also agree it was a bad move, but how can you blame a team for acquiring a guy who helped you win Super Bowls?
Help you, Nate Solder? You're saying Nate Solder helped them win Super Bowls?
An elite left tackle for 10 years helps you win. I mean, we may think he's overrated, but a guy who starts for you for 10 years and wins a Super Bowl, that guy is important. Yeah,
no, for sure. I just felt like they really had no pass rush after they got rid of Seymour. Like, I mean, that was just a tough spot.
Sure.
Like those cornerbacks were chasing guys for like 6 seconds, like when Seymour was gone those couple of years.
Yeah, but we disguise it and we have good cover guys. At the time, we had good linebackers. We don't anymore. I think Will Fork was still here, so we still had a 2-gap nose tackle helping us fill up like good run defense. So the only time they were passing is when we had a lead. So you have guys who aren't very good, like Tully Bantakane racking up 8 sacks because they've got to throw the ball 40 times.
TBC, baby.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
So, but it's like, Joe Burrow doesn't necessarily have like He's got the small hands. He doesn't necessarily as big as Herbert, but it's like I like him a lot more than Herbert as far as like a
Herbert
winner.
has no winning quotient, and I'm glad you brought us back to our original point, which was Herbert.
Well,
Herbert's never
I
going to
was
win.
getting nervous there. I could have gone deep into the I had to give us the hook.
I appreciate that, like playing music at the Apollo or an award show. No, but I just think Herbert. He lacks a winning quotient. There's something between this. He's to me, I loved him for a couple years. He's becoming Jay Cutler to me. And I like Jay Cutler more than anybody else on the planet, so I get it. That guy could throw a pillow through a keyhole. I loved watching him play. That guy had no fundamentals. Just back foot, throw a rifle anyway to a guy in double coverage. Loved Cutler. Herbert's becoming some of that, where he's so talented. You're like, oh, that wasn't a bad decision because you're not Tom. You don't have limitations. You can make every throw that is available. But also, why do you do the things you do? You help us lose a lot of games. You check out of runs and then get incompletions. So we no longer win time of possession like we did with every other quarterback we've had for a decade and a half.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't win time of possession, our Joey Bosa is gassed out there playing so much defense. Derwin James, Kenneth Murray, gassed out there. You just bench J.C. Jack. I mean, the team has no winning quotient as a whole. And he, as a quarterback, does not do a lot to help pull his team across that line. The guy's got all the tools. Love him as a prospect. You're right. There's a reason he's losing. And I'm just done making excuses.
No, there's definitely a reason why it's just hard to put your finger on it.
He makes bad decisions.
But it's like he throws like no picks.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's not checking into bad plays. Incompletions are as bad as picks if you had an 8-yard run that was available that you checked out of. I just don't think he sees.
I mean, that Monday night game was insane. He threw like 58 passes and had like 230 yards. It like is seemingly impossible,
Look, I know he hasn't had a Keenan Allen since week 1, and I'm sure that hurts. The guy's got Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. He should be better. He should win more games.
Mike Williams hasn't been very good this year.
Mike Williams is a freak athlete who has never learned a full route tree and has never stayed healthy.
That'll hurt you.
Talk about a guy I loved in the goddamn draft as a prospect, only to come in and be butt cheeks. Loved Mike Williams. Love the raw attributes still. Talk about like a Madden All-Star. 6'5", 220, 225, 91 speed if you're playing Madden, or just I think he was 4'5". I mean, Mike Williams was a great prospect. He doesn't have great hands, doesn't have great running ability, and isn't very durable. So there's limitations there.
Somebody who hasn't been very durable for the Phillies has been Bryce Harper. Switching over to the MLB, Bryce Harper homering to win it the other night, and kind of being worth that contract just there. The Phillies won like 87 games this year or something like that. They're the last team in the playoffs, and now they're here at the World Series. The World Series is about to start on Friday. For my money, Dave Dombrowski is absolutely a Hall of Famer. This guy has taken 4 teams now to the World Series, and a lot of people might give you crap that, well, he kind of like he gets rid of prospects and stuff like that. But it's also
systems. Call it what it is.
Sure, but he also does what you need to in order to win. I mean, it's like, I just don't understand these guys that are not willing to spend the money. I mean, he just does what it takes to win. And I feel like he's shown that in 4 different spots. Now, it wasn't as good with Detroit, and who knows what will happen with this Phillies team. But it's just like, you get 4 teams to the World Series. Yeah, I feel like you're doing something right. I feel like people here in Boston did not love him. He was a lot better than people made him out to seem.
Look, the guy's a Hall of Fame candidate. He should get in, right? But paying Bryce Harper the most money, paying David Price and Chris Sale the most money, paying Josh Beckett and AJ Burnett the most money, That does not paying Miguel Cabrera and Justin Verlander the most money does not constitute you being an elite talent evaluator. When you trade all your prospects and you win, which he's done, you should get credit. He's been in the World Series of 4 teams. Great team builder. But also, he's left organizations in shambles. He's left them with no farm system. And also, he's kind of inherently unlikable. I don't know if you've ever seen a Dombrowski interview, but the guy's kind of a schmuck.
Yeah. I mean, would you rather have somebody like Ben Cherington or Dave Dombrowski?
No, I'd rather have Dombrowski.
Like, it just
I'd rather have him in the Hein Bloom, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. I just feel like, yes, I mean, is what he does extremely hard? No, but you have to give him credit for like being able to actually execute. You know, if everybody could do that, everybody would. You know, it's like, I just feel like not a lot of guys actually get to the World Series. You got to give this guy credit for the ways that he's been able to do it in four different places.
I said he should get into the Hall of Fame. That is giving him credit.
But then I felt like you kind of took it away immediately after that by saying like all he did was ink people the big money.
Number one, I think it's important because variety is the spice of life that I provide some opposition. Number two, I don't like him. I've never liked him. He's a crap interview. He's kind of an arrogant, bloviating schmuck. Yes, he's a Hall of Famer. Should be. Yes, he's been to the World Series of the 4 teams. But yes, the detractors absolutely have merit in their argument.
Now, why is Cashman still hanging around?
I'm so happy you got here, and I wanted to have a small segment. And I know if Josh is still watching, he kind of got me started this morning with a Facebook post. But quite frankly, the guy's skating on ice like a ballerina. The idea that Girardi gets fired for just trying to ask his star players to play every day and work hard, and they get rid of Sanchez, and Stan's not been the same, and Judge has a great year, and you get bounced in the first round. The Yankees are a disappointment. And at this point, they're a perennial disappointment because every year there's some regular season juggernaut who then gets bounced in a wild card game or a first round playoff series. The idea that he gets no criticism, that no New York papers, if Steinbrenner was still the owner, the original Steinbrenner was still the owner, this guy would be on the front pages, not the back pages. I think it also helps this year in a vacuum that the Mets were good. I think the New York media was still satisfied with their bloodthirst and their rage because they had a winning team, even though it wasn't the Yankees. But he's built a disappointing team for a half a decade, and nobody says anything.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, in Boston, you would be fried.
He's put up Bobby Valentine production.
But did he invent the rap like Bobby Valentine?
Everything Bobby Valentine did was great. I loved it.
God, Bobby Valentine. That year was a lot of fun. Just making fun of Bobby Valentine.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I just remember, there was like that interview where like the guy's like, Bobby, a lot of guys in town, a lot of media here. What do you think? Just it was incredible. Like the media loved Bobby Valentine. I don't know what it was, but like he was such a bad manager, but had the Boston media absolutely eating out of his hands.
Because he's hilarious.
Yes.
He's very likable. He's the opposite of Dombrowski. Not good at his job, very likable.
Oh, I know. Somebody who's not very likable, Ben Simmons, moving over.
Freaking guy. This guy. Go on.
Moving over to the NBA, I mean, what does he score? He's hit like 2 field goals a game or something like that, but it's also he's fouled out at 2 out of 3 games. That's starting to look like a disaster pretty quickly in Brooklyn. You heard a lot of people trying to put a positive spin on that, just with the talent that they have there. Looks like Kevin Durant isn't having too much fun with his hood on. Ben Simmons, we kind of hear it every year that he's going to go back, fix his free throws and all that. And he comes back. It's like what you used to hear with Dwight Howard, how every year he'd be working out with Hakeem Olajuwon, building a post game. Simmons kind of comes back every year and still isn't as good as he was in his rookie year. What's next for this guy? is there any way that this guy can be a viable contender? I'm just trying to think, can Ben Simmons fix this at all? Like, what is Ben Simmons moving forward?
Ben Simmons needs to fix his mental. I never bought the hype coming out of LSU. I don't think he's elite, but he's a very good defender and he is an elite passer. He's a very tall point guard. He doesn't need shots as a primary ball handler, and that's rare in today's NBA. He's got talents that should make him complementary to Kyrie and Kevin. But Kevin Durant, poor Kevin Durant, and I never thought I'd say that, just the most efficient bucket getter ever on terrible teams routinely, on terrible, inefficient teams all the time, except for the Warriors. They're not going to turn it around with Ben Simmons. They can turn it around because they have Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Ben Simmons is not a lost cause. He needs to be in a low-pressure situation. You know where Ben Simmons would be super successful? Utah. San Antonio. Portland.
He'd fit in well there with his freaking, highlighter color suits. And
my point is he needs to be in a less pressure situation because he just doesn't have it. Also, excuse me for just 1 sec. I'll be right back.
Of course. So, the Jazz obviously looking really good. They've brought in Kelly Olynyk over there, obviously. But the 76ers not looking so good. One team that I was pretty excited about was the Pelicans. You had Zion and Ingram both looking good. You felt like for years over there, they've kind of had some of the talent that you need. Like, I couldn't figure out necessarily why they were not good, but because they do have talent in Zion, Ingram, but these guys just keep getting hurt. You just wonder if Zion and Ingram will be able to put it together. Zion is a guy who eats the extra ham sandwich. Ingram is a guy who needs the extra ham sandwich. Frank, we've talked about it before. They have enough talent if these guys are healthy in order to win. It's just that they cannot stay healthy. It's kind of disappointing over there, but I'm definitely bummed that to see Zion and Ingram hurt so quickly. In my opinion, it didn't look like Zion fell too hard. I know he has a bruised hip, and I know that's not, super
bruised
quick.
Hip.
Huh?
I just said bruised hip. No, continue.
I just mean, I don't know how long he'll be out for that, but it kind of disappointed that he's going to be missing time for that already. I was hoping that Zion was going to have a year where he played like at least 60 games this year. Do you think that he'll be over 60 games? Do you think he'll be under that?
I want to bang out a couple things. So I stole your joke about the Patriots waiting for Bailey Zappi to call the good plays. And then you stole my joke about one needing a ham sandwich and one needing not to eat a ham sandwich. One is just so fragile that he cannot stay healthy. One is simply too big and doesn't take care of it. That's simply what it is. Secondly, the Pelicans, as a talent collection, can be good. Can cause good teams problems and matchup nightmares. I don't think Ingram or Zion can stay healthy because I don't think either one has the discipline. Like, you're asking Brandon Ingram to be Durant. Durant put on 30, 40 pounds. I know we don't see it because he's still tall, still wiry, but he's a full-grown man now, which he wasn't all the time in OKC. And I just don't think Ingram is capable of that. And if he does put on that weight, he may not stay as good. That remains to be seen because he hasn't done it. But as a 6-year pro, do you really think he's going to now? Zion has never been healthy. So the under on 60 games, please, sir. The under on 60 games, please. Call it 55, not much under, but under, because I don't bank on him playing ever. The guy just can't stay healthy. Generational talent, bum.
Drew says he's got to get on the roast beef and rye like Gordon Hayward. I didn't know that was what Gordon Hayward was on when he was over here. I just remember Gordon Hayward having like the funniest video ever when the gender reveal video, like when he was having like his like 4th kid or something like that. I think he's got like 3 girls and had like a 4th girl. Like, he was so visibly dejected, like didn't even like pretend at all. I mean, that was probably like my favorite Gordon Hayward moment here. Gordon Hayward can't stay healthy either, so I don't know if the roast beef and rye is the smartest to go.
I think it is meant to gain weight. It was poor context.
Yes. Slimming. But I mean, we talked about who could win the MVP over the last week, and I said Giannis and stuff. But I mean, John Morant is quickly looking at making us look foolish for whatever we met. Who did you say that it was going to be?
I don't recall because I make outrageous claims on here all the time simply for the sake of it, and I get tons of joy from it.
At least we have that soundbite.
I hope I said Luka. I hope I said.
Oh, I think you did. You might have said Luka.
What I want to say.
It wasn't Ja, but I mean, Ja is quickly making us regret not having him on the list.
Do you know who the MVP should be every year? And it's really an indictment on the player that they've never won it. Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis gave you the best half any player's given anybody, including Giannis, all year in game one, and has done nothing. Nothing since. Hates his team, hates the situation. And that's cool and all. I don't blame you, but you're still the most talented player in the NBA. You're Durant levels of stratospheric talent. And you're
not allowed to hate your team when you just held out to go there like 2 years ago.
Shut up. Like, just play.
It's like you have the most money. You're in LA. You're with LeBron. Like, what else can we do for you?
And again, when you see
stop hitting the side of the backboard when you're shooting threes.
Be aggressive. Be aggressive, Anthony Davis. Like, I know that it's cool that you developed a shot, and I do think he should be a 32, which is above what he's shooting right now, but he should be a 32-ish% three-point shooter. But you need to get your game going like every other basketball player in the world. Go to the basket, get to the free throw line, score easy buckets off of drop steps and up and unders with your post moves because you've got a full bag. Like, be a complete player.
We can't let Westbrook get off the hook. I mean, we should have beaten up Russell Wilson if we had a chance to, but Westbrook, before we end this, is 4 for 26 in his last 2 games. He's shooting 8.3% from 3, 29% from the field. It's apparent that, and so it's apparent that, you know, the Lakers need to do something about that. But even something that's not going to show up in those stats, the other night against the Blazers, they're up by a point coming down the court at the end, and Westbrook takes it, doesn't even run out the clock or anything, just runs down, bricks a shot. You've got LeBron and AD just like looking at each other, mouth agape. It's like Westbrook doesn't even seem like the context of these games as well. Like, you know, and then after the game says that it was a 2-for-1 situation. They had the lead, you know, so it's just like the way that Russell is playing is making it really difficult for the Lakers to win games. And overall, they just can't shoot a 3. I mean, they have no shooting over there.
Ladies and gentlemen, life lesson. You cannot blame people for not being what they're not, and you cannot hold against people for being what they are. Russell Westbrook was Russell Westbrook before you traded for him. It was a bad fit when you traded for him. This is on you. It is not.
So this is like when you try to make the stripper a girlfriend, right?
I cannot comment on that circumstance. I simply won't. But this is not a Russell Westbrook problem. This is a Lakers problem. You spent a lot of draft capital to get him and AD, knowing it was a bad fit, and you thought you could make it work. Now you're up shit's creek without a paddle. Like, this is bad. They don't have shooting, they don't have defense, and they don't have playmaking. They have nothing besides 3 guys who don't fit well together. One guy who fits well with everybody, one guy who can't stay aggressive for a whole game, and one guy who's got the mentality you wish the other 2 had, but none of the skills.
Yeah, so DeMar DeRozan had mentioned that he was going to go to the Lakers. You know, like I think he was in a conversation on someone's podcast or something like that, like before the Westbrook thing. Do you think that would have been a much better fit? Because he's not a guy who really spaces the floor a whole lot either. So just for what the Lakers need, I mean, obviously he'd be a better fit than Russell Westbrook. But would that be the type of guy that they would need in there?
No, that's a nail on the head. He'd be a much better player and fit than Westbrook. No, still not the player or fit. Look, a guy like Kelly Olynyk and Grant Williams would help the Lakers right now. They just need shooting. They need shooting. But the player they should have gotten instead of Westbrook was Buddy Hield, was Bradley Beal, was one of these guys. They needed a guy who can legitimately shoot from anywhere on the court, and DeMar DeRozan can shoot the lights out from mid-range. That's why he'd be better than Russell Westbrook. But his inability to shoot the three at a high enough percentage would lead to some of the similar limitations that the Laker team has right now. I don't know why they didn't re-up Monk. He was the best shooter on the team last year. Still young. Still could be good. Dumb.
It's funny you say that, Beal, because I thought that was going to end up being the big three that they had out there. I thought
That should have been the move for 1 million draft picks. Who cares? Because that one actually fits. Look, if it fits and they don't stay healthy, then we don't win a championship, but at least we went for it. If you put these three together and nobody thought it was going to work and it doesn't work, now you're just a jackass.
Well, hey, at least we went for it on this episode of Open Season. We gave you a 2-minute bonus here. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. We'll see what happens this week in sports. Pats versus the Jets. And we will talk to you next week, same time, same place.
Strength. We could have been in here we could have been in here talking about a longer Patriots losing streak, but instead they'll probably win because the Jets are walking in a crippled team. But full strength, the Jets have more talent than we do.
Pats are favored, but yes, everyone is injured on the Jets. So I do kind of like the Pats on this one, even though they just fell apart in this last one. Also, coming off a loss like this, Belichick's just going to have them ready to go.
I know he's going to try. I also know he's been a failure.
I do. Yes. We can all agree on that.
I interrupted your outro. Continue. Lead us out, big man.
No. We're going. We're out. We'll see you next week.